Good evening, welcome to the Wednesday, November 6th, 2019 meeting of the Town of Woodbridge Board of Police Commissioners. This is a special meeting. It is now 6:23. Thank you for your patience. First part of the meeting is the Woodbridge Traffic Authority. Janice, is there any correspondence from the public that we have to address? Is there anyone from the public that you're aware of that wishes to be heard?
Anyone here to speak for the Traffic Authority?
Okay, moving on to traffic matters. Chief, there are 4 matters to address.
The first one is the Baldwin Road traffic study. That recently requested study has been completed. As you're aware, it's a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit assigned to the entire length of that road that was set by the Office of the State Highway Administration years ago. The traffic study included a 3-year look back into traffic accident history in the area there on Baldwin Road. And just a quick summary, in 2019 there were 2 crashes, both were minor with no injuries. In 2018 there was an additional 2 crashes, both were minor in nature. One involved a deer shot. In 2017 there were a total of 7 crashes, all of them were involved no injuries. Some of them were settled amongst the operators themselves. They were minor in nature, and some of them were storm related. And in 2016, there were 2 accidents. One was minor, and one did have injuries and involved a distracted driver that struck utility pole. In regards to the traffic data that was collected, it pretty much confirmed what we already knew, that the traffic volume on Baldwin Road is significant. It's a cut through with providing easy access and readily access to Route 34 and Route 15. The monitoring equipment was out there from September 18th to September 25th, and it found the daily traffic volume was found to be approximately 3,452 vehicles, and the peak traffic volume times were between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. Regarding the speeds, the average speed for northbound traffic was 31 miles per hour, and the average recorded speed for southbound traffic was 33 miles per hour. And the mean, or the 85th percentile distribution of the observed speeds found 41 and 42 miles per hour respectively for both directions. That information was shared with the resident that had come in and requested a study, and requested some information sharing on that. And that was done on October 24th. The deputy chief shared the information with her, and she was also invited to come to our traffic committee meeting, which was held this past Monday. And she did come in, and based on the discussion and the information sharing of that, a conversation came up about possibly reducing the speed limit to 30 miles per hour. When you get, it's 35 miles per hour the entire length in Woodbridge. When you cross over into Orange, the speed limit set there changes to 30 miles per hour. And she was, asking if that could be considered. So with that, the deputy reached out to the state DOT, and there is a form to fill out, and we'll complete that if the traffic authority gives us their approval to do so, and that would also share our findings with them, and they can make a determination if they want to modify the speed limit in any way. So that's anything.
No, that's about it.
What's your position about that reduction?
Well, it is. It's been 35 miles per hour for as long as I can remember, for years now. It hasn't changed. It is somewhat ironic that it's 30 miles an hour once you cross over, at that section there. Based on the speeds, the people what the data showed, they were staying within the speed limit, but probably my recommendation would be that the state authorities they probably have a little even more expertise than what we could offer on that, and at least take get their insight on it and see what their findings are. I have no objection to it.
If the change is made, is there additional signage that's put up? Or
It's probably posted now at the different, respective, lengths, and, the signs would have to be changed, if they do change, it would have to be
Then
changed.
turn right on Meeting House Lane.
They have to be changed, appropriately, that's the decision.
Any questions?
Up to the traffic authority, what you
Yeah. So would you want us to vote to move forward? Approve it?
Motion?
Need a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion to move forward, if that's what we'd like to do.
Would you make a motion? There's a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Second topic is just actually, the second topic on the agenda is the traffic committee update, so I'll let the deputy chief maybe present that part, because he actually conducted the traffic.
I mean, that was basically the essence of the meeting, was discussion, the traffic study that was done on Baldwin Road, as well as we discussed Grouse Lane and Fraser Drive. The chief is gonna bring that up too, as well as a request. And we discussed some signage on North Peach Road. But the essence of the meeting was Baldwin Road and the complainants, or the resident that was requesting it to have the speed reduced. And after I talked to the DOT, basically we've done all the work, the traffic history, the counters, because counters were put out by Yukon training facility. So that's basically all the information that they would get as far as determining whether to increase it. It probably is just going to be somewhat of a psychological victory. I mean, I think it's going to slow the traffic down or speed it up. But it will make the residents feel better that we took the action and thought it should be done.
And just to follow up on that, regarding the Grouse Lane, Fraser Drive, so a request came into Town Hall, was forwarded to us, that there are no speed limit signs currently on, in that area there, and actually, as the population change, I guess there's some school bus stops and more children, and there's no postings for that. So, just with the board's approval, we're gonna reach out to the, same thing to the state, see if they're the ones that have to set the speed limit sign, set the traffic speed for that area there, which has never been done before, so.
I don't think we can address that because we didn't notice that as part of the agenda.
Okay.
So if we could just put that on next month.
Sure. And the next topic is just a quick update on the Amity Road, Lucy Street, Bank Street DOT project. The Connecticut DOT is planning to upgrade the traffic light signalization at that intersection, as well as the pedestrian crosswalks. Last week, the deputy chief and I met with representatives from the DOT down there, and they went over their plans, and just the significant changes down there will be that they'll have an entire new signal system there that will enable to have 4 left turn signals at each approach there, so 2 on Amity Road, 1 on Lucy Street, and 1 on Bank Street. That's something that we've been dealing with complaints on over the years, that people can't make those turns as the traffic has increased down there. And they'll also be revamping the existing characteristics of the pedestrian crosswalks. And all that's been approved by the state, but they said when they get the permits and everything done, they're not slated to do any of the actual physical construction work all until 2022. But they wanted to make us aware of it, and so I'll just share that with you. And the final thing is just a, God bless you, the final thing is just a quick update on the Route 69 exit 59 ramp project down there. 2 weeks ago, over the weekend of October 26th, they were all scheduled to do the final milling of the road and paving. And just prior to that, they realized that there was some additional site work that wasn't in compliance and needed to be corrected. So they're working on trying to take care of those. And I guess the report I received from Town Hall today, a further update, was that their plan is, or they're anticipating that they'll be done by the end of November. And the work down there will be done for the time being. And a lot of the paving and the milling, they're gonna do at the overnight hours to have less of an impact on traffic. And that's it for for my reports on the traffic matter.
Is there a motion to adjourn traffic authority?
I'm adjourned.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Welcome to the Board of Police Commissioners meeting. First item, agenda is approval of the minutes from October 10th, 2019.
Move them.
Second.
Be approved.
Second.
Any corrections, modifications, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Were you here for that? Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comments and correspondence. Is there any correspondence from the public that we need to address? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to be heard for the Board of Police Commissioners? Financial report.
Okay, we're 1/3 of the way through the fiscal year, and we continue on track with the remaining within budget. We're about 31.5%. If there's any matters of concern on any of the lines, I'll try to address them for you. One that comes up is police overtime, and some of that has to do with the vacancies that we're currently experiencing. Someone on medical leave, and some town road work and milling that took place that we provided coverage for.
Was that work done by the town or was it done by a private contractor?
It was done by a private contractor, but for the town, so it's a town job. They don't have the equipment to do that. The town personnel are on scene of that job, so it's in conjunction with the town. It's a private contractor that comes in. Same as when they're doing the paving, so we actually have the areas that they mill.
I didn't recall whether, if it was a private contractor, whether that was a cost that they assumed for that.
No,
It's overtime.
not for town projects, unfortunately.
Any questions?
Yeah. Again, the only thing is overtime. We talk about it. At some point in time, we've got to get to a point where
Right.
we fix it.
Yeah, and I think, if we could get up to full staff, and that's the biggest problem is that the vacancies are causing the overtime, so, yeah.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the financial report?
Make a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Deputy Chief will give the activity report.
Activity for October, I reviewed the officers' statistics, and it seemed consistent. Overall, it may appear a little bit lower than usual, but we didn't have any extra patrols, DWI patrols, that we've had in the past months that produced a higher activity for each of the officers. We had no burglaries during the month. ISU is working on new cases, or present cases. They had a failed 66 larceny where they have an arrest warrant pending. They're still working on dispatcher interviews. They're going to be conducting 3 of those, actually tomorrow. They're assisting Texas authorities with a victim that now lives here in Woodbridge on a larceny that occurred out there. And they're going to be working with the task force, a regional task force, regarding mail thefts. Part of the 6 larcenies that occurred last month, 3 of those, one on Amity Road, one on Weppelog Road, and one on Fountain Street, were all mail that was taken out of the mailboxes. And because of those thefts, and apparently there's been in other towns, Mike?
The town was also a victim of the 2 checks being stolen.
Yeah. They're conducting both the mail theft investigations as well as forged checks, like the detective said. The other 2 larcenies, there was a theft at the JCC, and there was theft of some solar material down on South Bradley Road. Overall calls for service for the month were about what they usually are, about 2,200. And traffic stops, overall traffic stops were 173. Old cases, ISU is still working on 2 sexual assaults. Arrest warrants were submitted. Kidnapping is going to, the kidnapping case from Memory Road is going to sentencing, which will be in January of 2020. And that's about it for activity, unless you have specific questions.
Any questions? Okay, the motion to approve the activity report. There's a second?
Second it.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Chief, your report.
The first item is the approval of the police commission meeting dates for 2020. You should have a copy in your packet of these.
Why don't we hold off until the next meeting so we have, it's kind of not, it's not productive without getting to it here.
Okay. The second topic I have is on November 19th, the police department, with assistance of representatives from the New Haven Hospital, will be conducting 2 Stop the Bleed tourniquet training sessions for town employees. Will be held over at the town hall on that morning. You might recall several months ago we partnered up with the JCC and the New Haven Hospital and did the same event down there. And just a reminder that the goal of that is to turn ordinary citizens and bystanders into first responders, so they're able to take some life-saving, critical life-saving measures before the true first responders could arrive on the scene. So that'll be on November 19th. And the only other thing is we have 2 holiday toy drives that will be coming up. The first one is on December 3rd. It's the annual Shop with a Cop event. Our guys participated in that for the past 2 years, and each time it's been a success. The goal is to strengthen the bonds between the community and law enforcement, and also throughout the state, team up with families from the respective towns. I believe we have 3 families so far from our community that will be participating in it. That'll be held at the mall in Southington this year, and involves dinner with the families, some entertainment and games and arcades, and then they all go shopping at the mall there in Southington, I believe at the Target store, and it's all sponsored by the Reach Foundation, and they provide they cover all the costs and provide all the gift certificates. And the second event will be our second year in a row. They're planning to team up with Starbucks and Katz's Deli down at the DeAndrea's parking lot on the Litchfield Turnpike, and that'll be December 7th from 9 in the morning till 3. And that'll be collecting toys and donations for to be given out to either the New Haven Children's Hospital or the Children's Hospital of Hartford. Actually, I'll be to the Children's Hospital in Hartford, and they brought a whole cruiser load of toys up there and collected in excess of $500 in donation. That was all turned over at the end of the day. Hartford appreciate it. And, that's it for the chief's report.
So motion to approve the chief's report.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Give us an update on dispatch.
Yeah, so we still have, we're still conducting applicant interviews to fill the dispatcher position that we've had since July. On October 18th, we had brought in 2 potential candidates that were fully certified to meet with the personnel subcommittee, which was Dr. Desir. One of the 2 was recommended to go forward in the process. Unfortunately, he was in the hiring process at the same time he was interviewing with us, and he elected to accept appointment with another agency. So at this point, we're moving forward with additional interviews as a deputy chief reporter. And I believe now it changed, and now we're up to 5 applicants that are scheduled to come in tomorrow. And we'll keep the board advised as to the process of that, and hopefully we'll have somebody that we can reach out to the subcommittee again in the near future.
Great.
So that's an update on the personnel.
Well, thank you.
So, as many of you know, the town is really in a tough financial spot. Our mill rate is above 40 this year. With that in mind, a couple of the Board of Selectmen decided it was time to take action. So we formed a committee composed of myself, Matt Giglietti, Mika Cardoza, and Sandy Stein, to really take a 10,000-foot view of the town's expenses, finances, and so on. And our process really was to meet with department heads and have a dialogue about where our expenses are, how we can bring them in line, and really reduce the expenses for residents of the town. Our guidelines really were to right-size government and provide services, excellent services, at a more modest cost. Eliminate duplication of services and programs. Identify opportunities to maybe consolidate functions and so on. Maybe identify revenue opportunities. The departments we met with the chief and you, and we met with Public Works, the Library Commission, Fire Department, all of the major departments in town. And we've come up with a list of things that we'd like the commission and the chief and deputy chief to look at for the police department. We've talked about consolidating IT functions. Originally, it was to work with Amity staff and shore up. We compensate Amity, and Amity provides services for town departments. Now, that situation may not work. Tony Genovese is working on another solution, maybe to outsource it to consulting agencies, something like that. But we'd like the PD to participate in that effort. Right now, we basically have Ed Thomas doing this. Ed's a sergeant. We think his time could be more effective for the PD and for the town, providing leadership for junior officers. It seems like kind of, killing a mosquito with a cannon kind of thing to put a sergeant on a task like that. We'd like to look at dispatch. Now, dispatch has certain challenges. We have condition issues over there. We have space issues over there. And dispatch serves several different departments in town. So we'd like to take a comprehensive look at what they're dealing with in terms of space, equipment, training, all of those things. And also, in conjunction with that, establish metrics that we can follow for dispatch. The SRO is over at Beecher has become bone of contention. However, what many towns are doing in place of SROs is they're hiring former law enforcement personnel with current certification, with at least 15 years of experience, to be an armed guard, which for Beecher Road, we think is an excellent solution, and we'd like to look at that, and that can save the town a considerable amount of money. We'd like to look at management staff in the PD. Maybe we can do more with less. We've taken some steps in that regard, but we'd like the chief and the deputy chief and the commission to look at that very closely. In conjunction with that, the investigative services unit is a department of really 2 people, which has an assigned sergeant. Maybe we can look at that more carefully. Um, and come to maybe a more economical solution. And lastly, we'd like to look at the vehicles. You know, I think Beth will be forming a small committee to be looking at the town vehicles in general. But, you know, it has come to attention that the PD has a number of vehicles. Now, I understand a lot of them are older vehicles that we keep as, you know, standby vehicles or to do, you know, road work and so on and so forth. But there is maintenance and other costs associated with those vehicles. And we just like to right size it. We're not saying get rid of all the vehicles, just, you know, right size for the needs of the PD. And those are really the items that we've identified for the PD. The issue of dispatch is something where we suggested actually that a committee be formed, a second committee be formed, to look at that comprehensively, to meet with all the stakeholders, have the chief and deputy chief of the police department and the fire department participate in that committee, and really come to a workable solution that's good for everyone. So that's, in a nutshell, what we've hoped to cover with you.
You know, as it relates to some of those issues that you bring up, there are some things that as a commission we've addressed. I mean, at this point, the SRO really is not even within our realm because we chose to defund the SRO
I see, okay.
as a police department, as a police commission. And then because Beecher was upset with that, they chose to pick it up in their budget. So
Right.
that wouldn't be something that would be addressed by us anymore because we've already taken that step.
Okay.
I think it was about a year ago when we also defunded the lieutenant position. So we did address the issue of complaints that were made and observations that we made that there were a number of management positions. It was not a popular decision to make within the department. And we made that tough decision to defund that position. I mean, some of the other issues we haven't addressed yet. We haven't addressed the issue of cars, but we have over the last couple of years taken some of those steps already. Dispatch is, in my opinion, a little bit problematic because under the Connecticut statutes, the Board of Police Commissioners is the sole authority that makes that decision. So I know that there have been statements made to me by people in town hall that, you know, they had an interest in perhaps looking to privatize. But I don't think that that's something that they have the legal authority to do.
Well, that's not, well, I can't speak to the legal
Right.
authority. But what we're hoping that you can do is participate in a task force that kind of looks at what the issues are surrounding dispatch. And yes, you have sole authority. That you know, I don't know the charter, but that
Right.
may be true. However, there are challenges that the dispatchers face that need to be addressed. And we really do need to establish some metrics that we can go by that gives us some insight into how well it's operating. And that's really all we're asking.
Certainly it's healthy to take a financial look at different avenues, but I just wanted to make a statement that we have been doing that over the last couple of years. And, you know, respectfully, I think that we've done a more significant job than perhaps some other commissions who have not made as significant cuts.
You'll get no argument from me.
So, is there anyone else that wanted to say anything about it?
No, I still think it's an issue that hasn't been resolved in terms of dispatch, and I think there's more that has to be done with dispatch.
I absolutely agree. It's certainly worth, having an open discussion about it, but.
And I think that, you're right. I mean, that's something that internally, that we have, that's within our area of responsibility to work on. And the SRO issue, it's not so much the SRO issue as it is freeing up an officer well, an experienced officer, okay? So, that's part of the issue too. Now, yeah, it's on their budget, but the question is, you know, there's an experienced officer that could be freed up. And we're looking, you know, to increase our staffing level, to resolve our issues with overtime, okay? So that, to me, is an important issue. So that's why the SRO is still important to me. Because we have overtime issues. And we need experienced people, and he is a very experienced officer, so.
He's great, I just looked at it from a financial perspective, it's not on our financial
I
books.
understand that, at
So
this
that's
point in
why-
time.
Right,
But we're looking to hire an officer. Okay, we're looking for people, okay, and we keep on complaining about overtime, and overtime is not gonna change until we get the staffing levels where we need to be, so we can do what we have to do. So, I mean, so that's one of the reasons why I'm still interested in the SRO at Beecher School. And I agree with that. That can be handled with security guard, okay, armed security guard, okay, with
With law enforcement.
law enforcement experience for a lot less money. Okay, so,
but perhaps that, at this point at least, is a little more of a Board of Ed decision than.
oh, yeah, I think it's a Board of Ed decision, but
Right.
again, one of the decisions we keep on saying is, every time we look at the financial statement, we say, Frank, too much overtime.
Can I ask a question about the overtime? Has anybody ever demonstrated that the overtime fluctuates with staffing? Because it seems like every year it's virtually the same percentage, and it doesn't, because I think that.
It definitely, and I had the same conversation with the finance director, and he's pretty much
Yeah.
concurs, or, you know, he's the expert on it, and he says you can't have both, you can't budget and have vacancies and provide the same services without, somewhere you have to pay, either on the salary line or on the
One point
overtime line,
briefly-
that's kind of where we're at.
At one point briefly, we were fully staffed. And did the overtime go down? Can we demonstrate that the overtime changed with that?
During my 3 years as chief, I think, you know, other than having that unanticipated homicide, the overtime's been probably at the lowest that it's been overall, but, you know, some of this is the cost of doing business, as we always say, you know, it is if there's a storm, you know, unanticipated times after our events, but staffing, you know, and vacancies, we need to make sure we have the proper resources, you know, we're committed and obligated to perform, you know, critical public safety services 24/7, 365.
Well, Can you provide us with a graph of that, of staffing? Because the staffing has changed. We have not had the same number of vacancies in the last 5 years.
Well, you know, right now, we're at probably the lowest, we're at recommended levels now that are lower than what was recommended in 2002.
Right.
So we're really,
No, but what I was asking was a comparison of vacancies versus overtime, to see if there is a direct correlation.
I could try to find somebody out or reach out to the finance director, he might have something on it, but that's, you know.
Because the other thing is driving overtime.
Right, but the less vacancies we have, that's a big part of it. The vacancies is a big part of it, but there's always gonna be overtime. Just a matter of how much overtime there's going to be, and the vacancies, you know, contribute a significant portion to that.
We should be able to demonstrate that, if that's the case.
I'll reach out to the finance director and see if you could provide some statistical information for them there. Paul, just, you know, my comment on that is, I agree that we do all have to work together to be fiscally responsible and provide, you know, we all wanna provide the highest services that we could for the community, but I just wanna, you know, stress that whatever decisions we make, we have to make them based on facts and studies and proven experience that we've had over the years, and you know, I just don't want to risk cutting anything and have that have any impact on the services that we provide in public safety and officer safety at the same time. Like I said, we're running, you know, shorter staff than I'd like it to be, and we're doing the best we could with that, but you know, we all have to work together just to make sure that we could accomplish those goals.
I agree with you, and really.
No, I know you do, I'm just
These
on
are-
record for that.
Yes, these are the issues that we've kind of identified to work on, and we'd like the opportunity to work with you and the commission on this.
We welcome the opportunity.
Anything else, guys?
No, I have nothing else, except if we start running north of 40 mils, that's gonna be a problem. You know, so, that's, and if the budgets continue to increase that they're increasing, and our income remains stagnant, because, you know, we're not increasing our base, except through real estate taxes, okay, right now. And once we hit 40 mils and going, we're gonna get some pushback, so I think that all of us have a vested interest in this, you know, again, as we know, I sat on the finance committee for 8 years, so, so I'm kind of, that's the other side, but,
To Andy's point, the only thing we really have in town to generate revenue is the grand list.
that's it,
The grand list isn't growing.
it's not.
This isn't, 1985 when it was growing rapidly. And like Andy said, it's at 40 mils.
So that just reminded me of something. Well, speaking of revenue, this is something that we had suggested in our meeting, but I think I wanted to mention it to everyone. So I had brought this up some time ago. It came to my attention that as it related to the AMI SRO, I'm not sure why this happened, but we were paying for the SRO without being reimbursed. And it's a 3-town high school, yet we were fronting the bill for Bethany, and they had not reimbursed us for a decade.
Yes.
And I don't know the exact number, it's about $100,000.
Right.
Not an insignificant amount of money considering our costs. Has that been addressed as a revenue source that we should recoup that money?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Beth is having discussions with Beth.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think then it ended up going in the MD budget, I think.
Now, well, that's because
Now it's in the MD, that's because we raised, you're absolutely correct, because the issue was raised by the police department. So, we still have to settle with Bethany, but it got it to the point where it was actually put in the MD budget, so there wasn't that we had to get paid, so.
Well, it came to the point where Frank and I were working on an MOU, and we insisted that it go in the AMNI budget, and that we not front the bill for Bethany anymore. But we need to recoup that money.
We do.
There's no way we should be doing that. There's no way that should have been allowed to happen all those years. You know?
Orange reimbursed us, but we did not get it from Bethany. Okay. Capital budget request.
So the capital budget proposals are due at the end of this week to the finance department. We have 4 capital projects proposed for fiscal year '21, and the associated capital budget has been prepared. Janice provided you all with copies of it. Those proposals were reviewed with the budget subcommittee, and both Commissioner Signo and Commissioner Esposito gave the recommendation for it to be presented to the board this evening for your consideration and approval. The first project is vehicles for the department. We're looking to purchase 2 additionals to continue our proven replacement and retention cycle to negate high mileage and idling hours, and just to ensure a safe and dependable fleet. That's not an increase to the fleet, it's a replacement. So with any vehicles that we get,
Are you gonna get rid of 2?
we'll get rid of 2. And actually, there's a request from the every year there's a request from the human services and often from the public works. Are looking for a vehicle that could be handed down, and so our goal is to, in purchasing these vehicles, one would be for patrol, one would be to get rid of one of the admin cars and then be able to offer the cars to the other town departments to use even though they have high mileage, they won't be used for emergency purposes like we use them. So it'll facilitate their needs and kind of accomplish two things at the same time. One of the other projects is our building upgrade that we've been discussing for several years now, and so we're looking to renovate the building in time. I understand it's just pushed out to the future here, but I just want that's another project that we have on the table here. The third project is an enhancement of door security in our surveillance recording system. We're seeking to address security concerns here at the police department and implement this to a computerized door control access system to eliminate some safety concerns that have arisen and to allow us to have management rights to oversee and coming and going of the building and to control that with some restrictions. And we're also asking for fiscal year 22 the capability to upgrade our aging camera surveillance system to new state-of-the-art equipment, and also that will allow us to enhance that further to provide security at the center building, the shelter, the center gymnasium where the public meetings go on, and outside to the town green for the concerts. And the fourth item that we're looking for is we're looking to acquire 2 more speed awareness monitoring trailers to assist us in promoting highway safety throughout the town. There's close to 70, 80 miles of road that we need to cover. We have 1 speed trailer and it's in high demand. It's been proven to be very successful and well received by the residents in addressing their concerns. So those are the 4 projects, and look for the board's approval. So we can present that to the Board of Finance at the end of the week.
I have a question regarding the speed monitors. Are there the ability to get any grant money from DOT or the state or Fed for those? I vaguely remember that Ray got it for something similar that years
Occasionally
ago.
it does come up through highway safety, but there's nothing available right now. I mean, there's always a possibility, but I'm just saying there's nothing available.
If it does come up, during this process, we'll definitely take advantage of it. Look forward to taking advantage of it.
Right now, they're directing a lot of their money towards the DWI enforcement as well as the distracted and cook it or ticket programs, where they're funding 100%, where they only used to fund it 75%. So a lot of that money's going when you get those grants through traffic. They're 100% grants, so there's no cost to us
Are there any coming up?
for overtime.
Yeah, it's
So
cool.
we actually are involved in the click it or ticket, which is 100%.
Any questions?
No, no, I think these are very useful, and we need more of these around on some of the roads, because it's not only Baldwin Road, it's Beecher Road, it's Dillon Road, and I don't think anybody, and these are a deterrent. People see them do slow down. I like the one that has the camera in it that it flashes, so if you see you speed them, then somebody thinks they took your picture. I think this
It does take pictures.
Well, they have one that will take pictures, but this is great support for them. They can't cover 80 miles of roads and put 2 cars on the road, and these are very effective to help. People see these and they do slow down. So I think it's a good investment for us. Good.
Okay. So the next item is our executive session.
We need a motion to approve submitting the budget.
Oh, okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Also,
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Are you in executive session?
We will be.
Oh.
Now,